Now, the reason I chose the name GNU instead of all the other possibilities is that GNU is a word. And not only that, it's the most humor-charged word in the English language, because according to the dictionary, the G is silent and the word is pronounced new. So every time you want to write the word new, you can spell it GNU and you've got a joke. Maybe not a very good joke, but there are lots of them. So the word has a very funny spirit around it, and that's why I chose that one. But when it's the name of our system, please do not follow the dictionary. If you talk about the new operating system, you will get people confused, because we've been working on it for over 25 years and using it for 17 years, so it's not new anymore. But it still is GNU, despite the people who mistakenly call it Linux. And I noticed somebody had a penguin on the back of his shirt. That shirt was probably made by one of the people who thinks that the system is Linux. There are millions of people who use the GNU system, and most of them don't know it's the GNU system, which is really frustrating for us, because we would like them to appreciate our work, but even more, we want them to know why the system exists. This system was developed for the sake of your freedom. But when people think it's Linux, they don't know that. Because when they think the system is Linux, they think it was started in 1991 by Mr. Torvalds. You see, one piece of the system is Linux. Linux is a kernel. That's the program that Torvalds wrote in 1991. Now, the kernel is an essential piece of the system, and that's the one essential piece that was still missing then. What are these? Oh, it looks like these are a copy. This is a copy of my book of essays in Italian. Are there any more? Is this the only one here? Did you print a bunch? Who printed it? How many copies do you have? You have 4. Are you selling them? Well, I hope you're going to sell them, right? Okay, you have 4 copies here? He needs to say what they cost to print. Then we can figure out the price. So, Torvalds originally released Linux as non-free proprietary software. But in 1992, he changed the license. He released it under the GNU General Public License, and that made it free software. Now, there's a common misunderstanding. Many people think that if it's not under the GNU GPL, it's not free, but that's false. There are actually many other free software licenses. If you look in gnu.org/licenses, you can find a list. There are probably 50 free software licenses listed there. The GNU GPL is the most commonly used free software license, but it's not the only one. It's very important to realize. Just because somebody chose a different free software license, that doesn't disqualify his program. Any license that gives you the 4 freedoms is a free software license. In any case, when he re-released Linux as free software, it became a contribution to the free software community. And it was the last missing piece. Once that piece was combined with the other pieces we already had, then this made a complete free operating system, which was mostly the GNU system, but also contained Linux. So it's the GNU plus Linux system. And please call it that. If you hear somebody talk about running Linux or Linux distributions or Linux boxes or Linux users, please correct him. Please say, no, you're running the GNU plus Linux system. These are GNU slash Linux distributions. These are GNU slash Linux boxes. We're users of GNU plus Linux. I don't care whether you say plus or slash, whichever you think is clearer. The point is, this is mainly the GNU system, but it also has Linux. If you give all the credit to Mr. Torvalds and none of the credit to all of us GNU developers, what happens? Well, first of all, it's not fair to us. But more important than that, we did this work for your freedom's sake, and Torvalds doesn't agree. He never agreed with our ideals of freedom. When he decided to make Linux free software, it was not because he wanted to contribute to freedom. He had other reasons. Well, it's okay, as he did the right thing, whatever his motives were. The problem is, when people think he started it all, when people think that the whole system comes out of his vision of life, they tend to follow his vision of life. And where does he lead them? He doesn't tell them, demand freedom, you deserve freedom. He tells them, I want powerful, reliable software. So, is there any more? And what did they cost to print? He's got to come back and tell them. What? 50 euros for how much? 50 euros for one copy or for 4 copies?
Not to print. We paid before.
Wait. Is it 50 or 15? 15. Okay. 15 for this much?
No, one.
Just one. Each one is 15.
No, not to print. We paid before.
Oh, you already paid for them. You've already sold them.
Not to print. Before
I don't understand. I don't understand at all. You've got to tell me clearly what's going on. I don't know whether I'm supposed to sell them now or whether you've already bought them or what.
Before you already bought at 15 euro.
So, okay, so you bought them for 15 euros each of these. So what should we do with these? You want to sell them now? I mean, do it, but I don't understand you. I don't know what you're telling me.